according to our clock that it is 1 o'clock, so we will go ahead and open our meeting. We're going to have a special announcement from Dr. Marble to begin with.
We have prepared, as you can see in the agenda, to have a presentation by our performing arts group at the end of the program. It turns out today is auditions day for music people, I guess vocal folks, and so we need to break that up and have our vocal performance, which we're very delighted to have the chorale here today, at the first of the meeting, which is a little different for us. But with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. David Charlo and let him take over the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is the Missouri Southern Chamber Singers. It represents the most select choral ensemble of the vocal choral side of music, and these students go through a rigorous audition to be in this ensemble. They're also a part of a larger choral ensemble, the concert chorale, and then another group out of that is our jazz group, Jazz Unlimited. This particular group is not just made up of music majors only, it's also made up of music minors who are pursuing other degrees, and then we also have a few that are just non-music major, non-music minor, but are other majors who have met the requirements by taking voice and being in other aspects of our program. And so they're highly select, but they represent a diverse population of people. I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Dr. Susan Smith and Dr. Jordan Wilson. I have to say that every single one of these students take voice except one. He happens to be a tuba major, and so I think he feels like he's doesn't have to do that, but Alex is our only one person. He's also graduating. He's been in the group for how long now? 3 years?
Yeah, I think this is my fourth year.
Fourth year, all right. So, but I would say that we're very fortunate to have such wonderful voice teachers. We wouldn't be able to do the music we're able to do on the vocal choral side if we did not have that great collaboration. I would like to highlight the fact that not at every university do the vocal and choral people, I know it sounds strange because you're still working singing, but not at every university do those two groups collaborate together. And we do and work together very well. So I'd like to highlight that. This group just got back on Wednesday from a wonderful tour to Kansas City. We sang for 6 high schools up there. Well over 500 students we were able to sing for, and it was a wonderful experience. I'll highlight the fact that we also had a chance to sing in a church Sunday morning, but a real delight for us was the chance to work with Charles Bruffy of the Kansas City Chorale and Phoenix Chorale. He just won his 3rd Grammy award for conducting, and so it was really a wonderful chance to glean from him his expertise. So we're going to sing a couple pieces for you this morning or this afternoon. The first piece is a piece entitled Ubi Caritas. It's by the composer Ola Yelo, who is a fairly young composer, actually, who is in his 30s, I think. And he's actually based out of LA, but he's of Scandinavian descent. This is his wonderful Ubi Caritas.
Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est. Congregavit nos in unum Christi amor. Christi amor. et in ipso iucundemur, timeamus et amemus Deum vivum. Exultemus et in ipso iucundemur, timeamus et amemus Deum vivum. Timeamus et amemus Deum vivum. Deum vivum. Et excorde diligamus nos in cielo. Et excorde diligamus nos in cielo. Ubi caritas et amor Deus ibi est. Congregavit nos in unum Christi amor. Christi
We'll sing one more selection for you. This is a piece written or arranged by a composer who actually died too early, but left behind such a wonderful legacy of spirituals. Moses Hogan died when he was like in his early 40s, and he sort of took over that writing of the spirituals that have been left behind, like people like William Dawson and Chester Harrison and some of those others. This is his wonderful setting of Elijah Rock. Again, Moses Hogan. And again, thank you so much for having us today. It's wonderful to be able to share some music with you.
Come on, sister, help me to pray. Tell me, my Lord, done past his way.
Elijah Rock. Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock, Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
coming up, Lord,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock, Elijah rock,
Elijah
coming up,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
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 Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock, coming up, Lord,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock, coming up.
Elijah Rock.
Satan ain't nothing but a
Snake in the grass.
he's a conjurer.
He's a liar. Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
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 Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock, coming up, Lord,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock,
Elijah Rock.
Elijah rock, coming up.
Elijah Rock.
If I could assure
David, that was outstanding. Before you go, though, I would like to have this morning in the mail from KCU, the med school.
Oh, yes.
I had a note from Jane Lampos. She's the Vice President of Institutional Advancement. Very nice note. Dear Dr. Marble, I've had the pleasure of meeting you on occasion as we've worked with KCU, as you've worked with KCU on the new school in Joplin. I'm writing, however, for a different reason. The Missouri Southern Chamber Singers were guests at our church, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, yesterday. They were absolutely wonderful. Everyone in attendance appreciated this talented group and the beautiful music they performed for us. I know you're proud of them. You must be. Jane, we are proud of you. Thank you very much.
Hey, what? Oh, yes. We hear that we have a birthday today. Oh! Well, it's Dr. Carson's birthday, so I think we should all sing happy birthday to Dr. Carson. You have our pitch? Happy birthday, ready, go! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Carson. Happy birthday to
Anybody else singing happy birthday for the rest of my life? Thank you all deeply, Julie.
You bet. Thank you. All right. Have a
Thanks,
great
David.
spring break.
Jordan, appreciate it very much.
Now you can go.
I might have one of these birthdays next month.
You only get one cake.
This is a good deal.
You're gonna get tired of having one of these days.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I would, but
They're about to
I
start
gotta
hearing.
take this thing off the back. So I'll see. Yes. Hope so.
Okay, we will now resume with our regular agenda, and the first thing we need to do is take up the minutes of February the 19th. I assume everybody's had a chance to review them. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So made.
Have a motion by Mr. McCumber, and did I hear Mr. Frank second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The motion is, the minutes are approved. And at this point, we'll call on our treasurer, Linda Ice, for her report.
Well, good afternoon, and we'll look at the statements for February 29th of 2016. As you can see, the cash graph has significant significant dollars in it at the end of February. We're at $14.7 million. The transition from all of the timing differences that we had in January have cleared through in February with all of the financial aid disbursements and the payment on student accounts. And that is reflected on the cash graph. When you move to the statement of net position, a couple of items that are on here, you can see when you look at accounts receivable, you can see the difference from the prior month of about $12.5 million. And that really reflects the payments on the student accounts from all of the financial aid that was dispersed. Bear in mind, when we do disbursement on financial aid, we also are able to do, there are excess financial aid checks or electronic refunds that go out to students, and that total was about $6.4 million that happened in February. Of course, that continues throughout the semester, but the largest portion will take place in February. The net position at the end of February is at $71 million. When we go to the next statement, which is the comparative statement of revenues and changes in net position, we typically look at the difference column, and this month I wanted to bring to your attention a little bit the current month totals on there. Some of the things that happened actually within the month of February versus compared to last year. We actually like to look at both to keep track of what's going on between year-to-date and also within the current month. One of the top lines, the state and local grants in the current month, you can see we had $1 million come in. That's really primarily from Access Missouri grants, part of the financial aid. And this year, Access Missouri has quite a bit more money in it than it did in the prior year. And when I spoke with financial aid, I asked them maybe why the variance is, and we have 113 more students that are eligible and receiving Access Missouri money. So that really shows that the push to get students to apply timely, to apply before April 1, they are getting that message and they are receiving the Access Missouri money, which, like Pell, is money that they don't have to pay back. So that's an excellent thing for the students. The next thing that I took a look at was on the total operating expenses, and current year compared to prior year is about $1 million increase. And I looked at some of the expenses for February, and in the current month, when you look at that, our compensation and fringe we pay out in 1 month is about $3.4 million. They're pretty significant dollars. Within that is health insurance. We have Mosers that we pay out, HERP, so the retirement programs are in that number. Also in the current month, I looked at utilities, and we paid out about $230,000 in utilities in the current month. And year over year they are up, but we've talked about our physical plant obviously has grown significantly compared to last year with all the new construction. Also in the current month, we had $9.8 million in scholarships. That is a lot of scholarship money that is, again, going out to pay for student accounts or if there's an excess financial aid. And that includes everything from institutional scholarships, donor scholarships, foundation scholarships, as well as you've got some state aid in there. When you look at total non-operating revenues, one of the biggest difference in there is obviously the Pell Grants. You can see in the current year we had, or the current month, we had $5.3 million flowing through to students. We also have our appropriations, which is about $2 million a month that we get every month. So when you look at all those numbers and you look at the difference between the 2 years, the income before other revenues, we have a positive increase of $1.3 million over the current year. So those are just a few variances that I wanted to take a look at, and if you have any questions about either the current month or the year-over-year numbers, I'll entertain any questions.
If there are no questions, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Now a motion by Mrs. Flanagan, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Keith?
Alice.
Oh, Alice. Sorry, didn't see who made it. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion is approved.
Governor, Fletcher, before you leave that page, one thing that we might look at, that I know you noted, is the health insurance costs
Yes, sir.
and how they've increased this year dramatically, and which is driving our concern about and our interest in perhaps self-insurance. So it's in black and white, 309,000 more this year than last year.
That is correct. Those are significant dollars.
Moving on, I will call on our Vice President for Business Affairs, Mr. Rob Hughes.
Thank you. When I look at this month's construction report, and I looked at a year ago, drastic difference. A year ago, we had 4 or 5 projects going on at the same time. This year, we have one, but it's a very, very significant project, the Reynolds Hall remodeling project. The architects completed the construction drawings this week. They finally got those done, and they're out on the street to the subs. We will have a pre-bid meeting with the interested subs on March 20th. All bids are due back to the contractor on April 7th. While the architects and contractors kind of crunched all the numbers and developed the drawings for the construction project, our staff worked on the asbestos abatement on the 3rd floor of Reynolds Hall. And thanks to Bob and his staff, which did a great job, that is all complete now, so we took care of that ourselves. The contractor will begin light demo on the 3rd floor in April, with the major demo occurring after the spring semester and before summer school. We have a window, a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and they assured us they can get that done. We're doing that so we're not disrupting any classes. There will be some significant noise during that project. The only other thing on the horizon, we're still looking at the trail project with the city of Joplin, and we talked to the Public Works Director this week, and he was notified by FEMA on Tuesday that they were still reviewing the application, and they will let us know if they have additional questions. It's a very slow boat, but we're getting there. As far as the budget, Jeff is still crunching numbers daily, hourly. We're closely watching the actions at the state level, back and forth, like a ping pong match. We'll need to have another board budget audit subcommittee meeting next month to review where we are on the current year's, next year's budget. Any questions?
If there are no questions, we thank you for your report. Moving on, we'll call on Mr. Jared Bruggeman, Athletic Director.
Thank you. You have the complete report in front of you. I'm just going to highlight a few points. Normally, I don't spend a lot of time talking about the actual sport programs. We're going to talk more about the NCAA or the things going on more globally. But I do think it's worth mentioning a few things. One, Tavon Prince was an all-region pick, set several MIAA records, and will participate in the NABC Division II All-Star Game in Frisco, Texas, during the Men's Elite 8 tournament. So it's a great tribute to his success and our coaches in the program. Regarding a couple more points here, the men's track and field, Jace Thomas earned All-American honors in the multi and in the high jump. Keenan Harrison also earned All-American honors in triple jump. But Jace was named the regional track and field athlete of the year, as well as he was the 4th highest all-time scoring in the multi event, and also was the MVP of the conference indoor championships. So we're looking forward to great things on outdoors. The previous MVP is also one of our athletes who was not eligible for indoors because he had expired his eligibility, but will be joining us for outdoors. So we have the last 4. Jeff Fraley, who's also qualified for the Olympic trials. So it's pretty exciting to have those that level of competition on our own team. In addition, on the women's side, we had 2 pole vaulters. Melanie Bauer and Emily Presley were All-Americans. Melanie was runner-up national champ. So that was pretty exciting. And then also Emily Harris earned All-American honors in the mile, and Kaylee Morgan in the long jump. So it was quite a nice couple of weeks for Missouri Southern representation at the national level. A couple other items. There's some NCAA compliance issues coming up with as far as the national level changing criteria from high school into the university. So Rachel, our compliance officer, and you've met her, she's spoke before, has actually been going to local schools and presenting to the counselors, presenting to potential student athletes or family she sets up time and goes and gives them updates about how that applies, what you need to be doing, because now they have to have more science, they have to have more math in high school. It's important that we educate them early on before those all come into place. So she has been traveling around the region trying to educate, not necessarily from Missouri Southern's perspective, because we may or may not receive those athletes, but it's really designed to just try to educate the population about the changes going on. So I appreciate that, but it is significant for her to be out there. And then the final item here is on April 3rd, we'll be doing a softball dedication for the Pat LaPira project over at the, is that in your notes? Nope. Okay, good. So if you're able to attend that, that'd be great. We have several events going around that, but certainly well deserved for Dr. LaPira to be recognized for that, but I did want to bring that up.
Sir, what time is that?
Oh, boy. It's noon.
We'll
We'll say 1, noon. I'll look it
We're all
up.
over the place. What is it,
11.
Cassie? Do you know?
12:30.
12:30.
Right before game time. We have games, softball and baseball.
Reception ahead of it, Paula.
At 11, the reception's at 11, okay.
So we all confused now?
Yes,
We will
it's
be
actually
sharing
in the
the
notes.
conversation.
No, great question, and it's in the notes, so let me pull it up. I'm sure it's right here in the notes, so.
But it says 11 on M.
So, yeah, 11 a.m. we're doing there's an event at the North End Zone facility, and then we're going right over from there to I guess the recognition will be at 12:30 prior to the game at 1, so.
You could just do us a favor and flip us an email.
There's a good idea.
There we go.
We can kind of like.
So much
Now
more
that
fun.
Ron Anderson's all over the board, we know it'll be checked, so. Ron never checks.
There is other technology.
We will send you an email that has the
I'll
correct
text
time.
you.
All
Okay,
right,
well, anyway, thank you. That concludes my report. If there's any questions.
any questions?
You can try to confuse you some more real quick.
If not, we thank you for the report, and we will now call on Executive Vice President, Dr. Brad Hodson.
Good afternoon. You have a copy of my written report at each of your places. It's titled Advancing MSSU. There are 3 items I'd like to bring to your attention from that report. One, the first item on the front page is an update as of March 1st of our capital fundraising initiatives, and most notably Reynolds Hall. You can see that we are just a few dollars short of $1 million in funds committed to that project. Most of those pay out over 3 to 5 years, and so you can see that we've received about $369,000 in cash on hand, but the remainder will pay out over time from those donors. And the other projects listed there are either completed or underway, and really it's just noting how much remains outstanding for those projects, such as the end zone facility in the baseball stadium. A little bit further down, you can see the phone-a-thon ran for roughly a month in the fall, and there's some data there for you, but most notable is the third bullet, which shares that we collected 843 new email addresses during the phone-a-thon, 5,000 cell phone numbers, and 1,300 home phone numbers during the phone-a-thon. And so that is always a great opportunity to have voice-to-voice contact with an alumnus or a former student and to have them update their information. All of that will be transferred over to the Foundation's constituent database to allow us to do a better job of contacting them next year.
Brad, was that from the postcards that were mailed out?
No, that's the last item on the back page, which would be an alumni directory update. It's the same concept, though. Individuals update their information, it comes back to our database, and then we use it for future mailings or phone contact. But no, this would have been students calling alumni and friends asking for charitable gifts at the end of the calendar year.
What about students' parents? Are they calling, like the students' parents?
If they are an alumnus or a previous donor, they are, but we currently do not have a parents program where we would contact them just by virtue of being parents and asking them to make a gift, but that's something that we've looked at very carefully and is probably on the horizon for us.
Yeah, I think that would be a good source of giving.
Buy an MSSU minute or something, those kind of things go on all kinds of places.
There's very few people we won't call. So, on the back page, I wanted to share with you information from our admissions office. We talk about a funnel, oftentimes on campus, because we try to go out and get a large number of prospective students, and then we begin mailing them information, contacting them via email and phone, and so that prospect pool then will funnel down into the number of individuals who actually complete an application, pay the application fee, and are being considered for admission to the institution. The next element of the funnel would be those that are actually admitted based on the current admissions criteria. And so I wanted to share with you that a year-to-year comparison, this date last year, so this is not, we're not comparing final numbers last year, we're comparing March 1 numbers last year, that applications are up 10% for the fall of 2016, and that admitted students are up 16% for the fall. And so again, very, very preliminary numbers, but I always like to keep you updated whether the news is good or bad, that things are going very well right now for the fall, particularly for students from the state of Missouri. You can see in the second bullet that applications are up 21% and admitted students are up 26% just from the state of Missouri. And so that's a very, very good sign for us for the fall. We will continue to keep you updated as those numbers evolve over time. They always do tighten up as we head towards August. But something else to keep in mind, a marker that we use internally for fall enrollment is applications or RSVPs for Southern Welcome, our summer orientation program. It's my understanding for sure the first session is sold out. I believe the second session is also sold out. And at this early in the spring, that is unusual. And so again, we have a lot of folks that are excited to come to Missouri Southern in the fall, and that's indicated by the numbers you see in front of you, but also the RSVPs for Southern Welcome. I believe we have 7 Southern Welcomes over the course of the summer, and 2 of them are already sold out. So that's a very sold out. They don't buy tickets, but
That's right.
you understand my meaning. Yeah, there's a revenue opportunity. So anyway, that is my report.
Are there any questions, Dr. Hodson?
And this
Yes.
admissions number is before they know their financial aid, is that right?
So some of them would have filled out their FAFSA.
Absolutely. In our report, we've already processed over 3,000 FAFSAs
Okay.
by this point. So if they've gotten it in, they already know what their
Okay,
status.
okay, so that includes.
Yes.
Okay, they're good.
I really think that, you know, as a marketing guy, the applicants' number is very heartening at this point, because that's the best precursor sign to growing enrollment down the road. And not now, but I wonder, after you get through the deluge at this point, if there's a way for you to kind of crunch the numbers on and do a profile on this year's applicants versus last year to see if you're getting some different audiences that are starting to tap into.
Absolutely.
Obviously, that's one of the big keys at this point, is to bring more people into the tent from areas where you were underrepresented before.
That's right. Yes, we'd be happy to look
Obviously,
at that.
these are great numbers, so.
Other questions? If not, we thank you for your report. And we will now call on Dr. Paula Carson, our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Thank you. And I'm going to take a moment to thank you for the birthday recognition. It's humbling and most unexpected, and I really appreciate it. So throughout our gathering today, I'll be talking several different points in the agenda about a variety of different and exciting things. But I wanted to focus my report today on sort of end of the year academic wrap up. Last time they bet on how long I talk, so if they're looking at each other, I'm gonna talk fast and thoroughly. There are many things that we do here at the end of the academic year to ensure that our students are prepared, particularly as they get ready to graduate to enter the labor force. So a couple of those processes I want to focus on. I'm not really sure how much the assessment process, end of the year process of assessment has been discussed historically. We're very much evolving that in a way that we hope will be simultaneously more effective and efficient. Historically, institutions were measured by sort of the inputs to a system, in healthcare, in education, a variety of other industries. So if you had qualified faculty teaching courses, we made the assumption that students were learning and that they graduated knowing what they were supposed to know. We made a paradigm shift in terms of how we measure our effectiveness, and now we specifically give assessment or evaluation testing devices, if you will. Missouri Southern has a long history of participating in graduating senior standardized testing, which has its pros and cons. There are some benefits to it, and it's not all that we do. But we take a random sampling of our students, of our graduating seniors, and Dr. Marble has been kind enough to go and actually speak with these groups before the test and try to convey the importance and the impact of what they're doing on taking these assessments. And then we'll use those results to help us understand how we might need to reconsider the curriculum, particularly in the gen ed areas. But there's a whole variety of other assessment devices we use, what we call course embedded, which are assessments that are drawn out of the actual classroom experience, and a variety of different survey instruments. So we're collecting that data right now, then we will aggregate it, analyze it, and over the summer, probably in the early fall, we'll be presenting what we consider to be our actionable findings outside of that data. But that is going on in earnest right now, because we want to make sure that our students are learning what we think they are learning. We're also embarking on a very different process to try and gather student feedback from the courses. It's an electronic process, and it's embedded in our learning management system. So it's the regular kind of paper and pencil, how much did you learn in the class? Was your faculty member responsive? Were they informed? Did they effectively convey? We've had throughout the years very low response rates. It becomes a big problem for us because the new handbook requires a variety of different sources of feedback to be measured and to be aggregated into annual merit evaluations, to promotion, and to tenure decisions. So we are trying, again, by reaching directly out to student groups and student media, and I have to actually go and talk to the students before the Star Wars movie, which I'm sure is going to thrill them to no end about the importance of completing their course evaluation. But we're really trying to get good, reliable, valid information from the students. So again, it's very critical in all these different areas that we establish a baseline for effectiveness, and we surely don't want to tweak or alter or modify anything that's working very well. We're working very hard right now to make sure things are working very well. Academic policies has been requested by Faculty Senate to consider upper division requirements. I've touched on this before, and we will get formal report on this, but we do have specific courses identified through academic policies that we feel like would be very critical. When we did an analysis, we found that we had some students who were graduating seniors who were taking the second composition, the second freshman English, and students will, if they are enabled, they will procrastinate in a lot of those different gen ed areas. We want to make sure that the purpose of the gen ed is a liberal education, critical thinking, and a base to be able to master upper division material. So we're going to be recommending some structural changes to that you have to, there are certain courses you have to take before your third and fourth year, before you take 300 and 400 level courses. I also want to report with great enthusiasm and excitement that we're doing a variety of searches for faculty members as well as for administrators, department heads, directors, and they are going tremendously well. And all of the searches, and particularly we're looking for department heads, a director of the library, department heads in music, English, and nursing as well. And we have had amazing candidates. I am pleased and excited about the quality of the applicant pool and the quality of the searches for anywhere in the nation. It's been really very amazing. We have gotten every candidate that we have extended an offer to, excepting one, and that was because it was a dual career situation and we only had one job. But it has been very, very effective. I'm going to be very excited to introduce to you our new hires in the fall, but that has gone extremely well. And then later on in the program, we'll talk a little bit about tenure promotion processes. It has been a very, very busy month since we last gathered. A lot of evaluations, a lot of meetings, a lot of deliberations over these very, very critical decisions in academics. I'm very happy to share with you some results today. The remainder of my report talks about 3 specific events I think that that you would be interested in. One, Dr. Marble referred to at lunch, and that is our Teaching Excellence Award. And a faculty member in nursing, Dr. Eller, has been nominated for that. And her biographical information as well as the details about the event are listed there as well. She's been in the university for over 30 years, and it's a great honor to have her recognized in this way. The second, I have actually attached the second page of my report is an article from the Globe that Emily wrote very kindly, and we thank you for that on History Day. We have History Day and Science Day and a variety of other events that we strategically utilize as recruiting events. Much like when David students go on tour, they're not just on tour, they are out there recruiting. So we try to ensure that whenever we have these events, that the desire is to present the best face we can to the students and to try and show them all the many benefits of attending Missouri Southern. We had History Day a couple days ago. I don't know, it's super busy all the time, but not too long ago we had History Day. We had over 200 students on this campus from grades 6 to 12. They represented 16 different schools, and very exciting to me, 10 different districts. And that is very important because we're trying to expand, I think, the geographical domain to enhance diversity, intellectually, racially, a variety of different ways. So 10 districts is very significant. The theme for National History Day is exploration, encounter, and exchange. And it's very, very exciting to see it. You know, when I did projects in middle school, it was like this threefold kind of thick poster paper kind of things. Now they're multimedia, they're digital, they're multi-sensory, they're very, very interactive. Following up from we were talking about lunch, really the technology that enables the learning. It's very fascinating also from my perspective to understand the true educational experiences students are having when they come here. So we always want to make sure technologically, learning environment wise, when they come to us from their middle and high schools, that we are at least on par with, if not more technologically sophisticated and advanced than these students. So that was a great benefit. And Emily, thank you for covering that. The last thing I want to talk about is an upcoming event. You have a handout on that as well, the Safety and Health Expo. The Safety and Health Expo is in its infancy. It was held last year primarily as an event to help our emergency medical students figure out how to handle helicopter landing. So how to deal with helicopters. Well, it's proliferated very, very significantly into an event that is not just suited in learning for those students, but there are 7 different disciplines involved. There are five different agencies that are sending helicopters. We'll have a Black Hawk here on that day. We're having the first annual, what we call biohazards games that will be very, very interested in helping students to understand the obligations of careers, and that's what we're doing here. We're helping to assess our students, but in doing that, we're inviting the community to come learn about careers that we offer in the safety and health areas, and we're trying to engage the community and provide them. So again, a very synergistic event aimed at really meeting the needs, entertainment and educational variety of different stakeholders.
Did you say biohazards game?
Biohazards game. We're having biohazards.
That caught my attention too. Can you expound a little
Or
bit
do you
on
want,
that?
maybe
I
we don't want.
cannot.
Maybe we should not.
I cannot, because then I'll ruin all the surprise.
Okay.
But I can expound next month if you would like, if you can hold on for that. So I think this is also another example.
But you're invited to attend, though.
Oh, yes. And I can promise you, if there's danger, we'll have masks. I think it's a great event because it represents many disciplines across campus and also all the different health systems and entities around the community. And it's very great for us to be a gathering place for collaboration for all of those different stakeholders. So we would love to have you there. We actually do have an alternate rain date or snow date. Still waiting for that snow day if it comes, but we would love to have you. So that is all I have for my initial report.
Are there any questions of Dr. Carson or comments?
Was I good? Bad?
That's a board thing.
All right, well, thank you for your
You'll
report.
be here anyway.
For the biohazards game.
Good picture.
We'll make sure those are at 9.
Okay, we will now call on our Vice President for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management, Dr. Darren Fullerton.
Dr. Carson kind of alluded to, it was almost the end of the semester. I want to point out that the faculty and the staff are still, we are at midterms, and the faculty just submitted midterm grades, and hopefully we're cleaning that up. Some of the things, the priorities, you can see we're prepping for the fall. Linda in her report talked about, the financial aid piece and how vital that is. Little things such as conducting workshops in the library and helping students walk through every step of the FAFSA of what has gotten our numbers up. And so a lot of things are happening, even though we are moving into the latter part of the semester. Priority registration, we're gearing up to do it all again. Priority registration for our current students starts April 1st. The registrar's office is offering degree and audit training for advisors and students. Dr. Hodson mentioned our Southern Welcomes. The first one is April 20th, which actually coincides with our honor signing day that morning, and that's a fantastic day to be on campus. The FAFSAs, we processed 3,000 of those so far. I've been working with the foundation to get the foundation scholarships out so the current students hopefully will know before they leave here, and many will know before they register even for next semester, whether or not they've received the foundation scholarship. Residence hall applications are growing. You can see the potential numbers, and we still get graduation applications in, and so that gives you an idea of where we are. Some of the events are listed there, upcoming events, and you have a couple flyers of those also. If you had been here a couple days ago or even up to last night, the hallways were full of clothing for the professional clothing giveaway. And last year we were able to help, I think, 800 students with that. So that's been a phenomenal partnership with the Chamber of Commerce Young Professionals Network. We also have the Spring Career Fair flyer there for you. We have over 100 vendors, 100 businesses, graduate schools that will be here to recruit our students and alumni. That event is open to the alumni. And that is on April the 6th from 10 to 2 over in Leggett and Platt. Graduation Expo on March 30th for our current graduates. Some of the program highlights, Veteran Services, we are proud to announce that Megan Alberts, who is an alum, by the way, was hired to be our Veteran Services Coordinator, and she is a veteran of the Navy and is on board and is looking forward to assisting our veterans. Several other just departmental announcements there. At the very end of the report is a smoking update, which is very appropriate for today. Some of you may have came across the oval coming from Hearns, and it is that time of the season, and some folks celebrate religious holidays. We did have our own burning bush outside today. Someone was standing next to the no smoking signs and dropped a cigarette in the mulch, and it started a fire outside of Billingsley. So we want to reiterate, we are a no smoking campus, and so you have an update on those practices and the signage and decals that are up for that effort as well. With that, I will answer any questions.
Hearing no questions, we will.
Actually, I want to make one comment. I actually had the opportunity, our oldest granddaughter is heading for college at this point. She's actually going to attend Southern, so I've been able to go through a lot of the processes in the last 60 days in particular that Darren was describing at this point. Making sure that her FAFSA was in a very timely manner, which was probably the thing that her grandmother and I counseled the most. Watching her go through her application for housing at this point and everything, and it's been a very interesting process to see from the outside rather than from the inside at this point, and how passionate students are once they've made their choices, once they've decided where they're going to go, about their preparation for the experience here. And you're going to get a great student. You're going to get a student that'll actually bring students with her because she comes here at this point. And hopefully she'll have a great experience here. But it's been great to look at this process from the outside, not just from the inside. It's great when the numbers are right and everything's going well, but it's another thing to see someone actually walk through this experience. So.
Did you find the FAFSA was easy to complete as advertised?
No.
No.
But then I didn't believe that going in. I've been around it too long at this point. I didn't realize, the years ago you could start it a lot earlier than you can now. It's a much tighter, narrower window than it was a decade ago. But you can
I just wonder how many students get discouraged because it's so difficult. We have nothing to do with that. That's federal.
Well, actually, of course, my biggest thing was making sure that her parents got all the information rounded up that was necessary for her at that point. But no, she's a very diligent person, and she got it all. She got it done.
And often that's really challenging for students because they have two houses they're trying to you know, take care of it. It's just hard. I wish the FAFSA could be simplified for student
Well,
access.
it needs to be, but I also do understand that you look at every facet of it, and you understand how that particular piece of data is relevant to the decisions that have to be made. So, unfortunately, life sometimes is complicated.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One comment I'd like to make, just something, I just received a text, and it has to do with Southern. I thought it was good news to share. A young man who went to school here, he graduated 4 years ago out of the honors program, was very, very successful here. Went to school at the University of Missouri Med School, is graduating this semester, has just been accepted into residency. They announced just a little bit ago to a university hospital in Columbia. He's going to be a neurologist. He's entering residency. Just a success story from the Missouri Southern Honors Program. His name's Brandon Gallimore. Bright young man. Just wanted to share that with the board.
Thank you.
And to Governor Frank's FAFSA situation, remember last month I reported to you that the federal government has changed it to prior year. So our admissions folks are actually out there right now talking to people that will enter a year from this fall about how that process will change so that we can get a jump on educating those individuals.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? We will move on to our Faculty Senate President, Dr. David Charlo.
Good afternoon again. At our last meeting, we had quite a full agenda. We were actually not able to get through everything by the end. We had so many things to talk about, much discussion. But I'll highlight a few things that came out of that meeting, and then the rest you can see here. We talked a lot, a little bit in Faculty Senate Executive Committee about Southern Welcome and the importance of having students who come in to enroll during that time period, that those freshmen are not enrolled in online courses, but they are enrolled in actual face-to-face contact courses. And we mentioned this to the President's Council, and both Darren Fullerton and Dr. Carson agreed that this is something that needs to happen, that we need to make sure that the face-to-face, and I think that's important because they need to have success. And I know as a faculty member that having that one-on-one with them is extremely important. So I think that that's something that's going to come and be important, or be looked at more carefully in the future with the deans and the department chairs. The CRDs, or as we call them, the curricular routing documents, our secretary actually, Dr. Megan Bever, was very proactive about having sort of a training session for all of the people who are dealing with the curricular routing documents. As you know, lots of change this year in regards to the faculty handbook on curricular changes, additions, and deletions. And we're having this on Tuesday or Thursday, March 31st from 9 to 11. And we're going to have some breakfast and gather around and try to make these documents so that they're user-friendly and that everybody understands how those documents are used. You can see there we have calendar meetings. We sort of set what weeks will be what for the various committees that meet, so that people who are involved in both won't be on top of one another in those. But I'd also like to mention that we belong to the Missouri Association of Faculty Senates. We had a representative go to the meeting. It was in early February, Dr. John Summerfield, and I sent a report on behalf of the things that we were doing on the Faculty Senate, and specifically with the focuses, accomplishments, goals, and university news. Amongst those, of course, I mentioned that we were dealing with the new faculty handbook and accomplishments of the faculty, many faculty senate charges that we were given to our committees, but I had to also mention our university news, the Yours to Lose program, which I can tell you, just as sort of an aside, that is a great thing to mention to those Kansas City high school seniors and juniors who are considering going into the medical field. We had a representative from the admissions there who was able to go with us and talk about that. So I will say that that's a great thing for us. And many ears and eyes were perking up when they heard that. I thought I would mention that, because we've talked about it, that MAFS has made a statement regarding concealed carry. And basically, if you'll see there in the bold there, and you can see the bullet points there that they have that support the statement, favors local university control over its rules for when and where students, faculty, and staff and visitors may possess firearms on campus. There's a strong support there that we be given that right to make that decision as it best fits us. And I know that Dr. Marble has talked about that quite a bit because that was a heavy topic for them there in Jeff City, and I thought I would bring that to your attention of their stand on that. Lastly, I would say that we've talked again about these faculty senate charges. We have given many of them out. We gave one early back when I first took office in fall concerning that was given to faculty or given to Academic Policies Committee in regards to textbook adoption, rental, codes to go and use online resources. And we set a 5-point charge, and you can see there, I won't go into it, have to put your glasses on to see it, but you can see that basically what the APC did was to recommend that faculty have control over the textbooks and any resources to use in their classroom. They looked at what was the costs through the textbook rental and through the bookstore, and to basically encourage faculty to keep those prices in mind when we're choosing, but that ultimately those decisions be left up to the individual faculty. And so that was something that was approved and adopted by the Faculty Senate. And again, we consider it, especially in the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, consider that to be a success, that those charges are really working quite well, and that their new charge, the APC, being to look at the bigger picture of academic policies, is really being done quite successfully. That's all I have to report.
So that means we have the book bar question in the right place.
That's right, we do. It's back to us. And, yeah, we're just still kicking it around.
Are there any questions or comments concerning Dr. Charles' report? If not, we thank you. And at this time, we would normally have our Staff Senate President, Elisa Bryant, but in her absence today, we have the Secretary, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Kim. No.
Kim. No.
And the report I have, we may have what you were reporting on the book buyer, I guess.
Yes.
Staff Senate is still in the process of looking at it, working out a recommendation to make, and some of that is kind of based on what has been found in the student handbook, that there is a solicitation or no solicitation policy in that on campus. It reads that solicitors are not permitted to solicit from student or faculty members during school hours or upon campus, amongst some other things. So basically, if we were to recommend that for faculty and staff, there would need to be a few changes made. In that policy, it allows for exceptions to be made by the Vice President of Student Affairs, so something along those lines possibly. So any recommendations then would be forwarded to Faculty Senate to finalize. And then the other thing I have to report on is the compensation survey. You have a handout, or you have a copy of that in with your handout, along with the demographic audience that we plan to send that to. And then in addition to that audience on your handout, it also, the plan is to also send that to an HR listserv of colleges and universities in Missouri. Do you have any questions?
Seeing as there are no questions, we thank you for your report. At this time, we would normally have a report by our Student Senate President, but Mr. Prysock had a conflict today, so he won't be with us. And I don't believe that we had any of the board committees meet since our last board meeting. So at this time, I will invite Dr. Marble to give us his report.
Thank you, Governor Fleischhacker. I'll be brief because we're running kind of late. The first item I have listed there is budget and legislative priorities. I guess it's encouraging to hear, to see the great things happening here on campus. And there are things happening in Jeff City too. They're not always entirely predictable and good. But to go back to what Dr. Charlotte was saying a while ago, when Dr. Summerfield went to the faculty, meeting faculty senates, it has a fairly specific purpose. However, he did come by the office and spend about 30 minutes, understood our priorities and to get caught up where we are and moving forward. So he could visit some offices too, which I appreciate very much. So you might pass that along. Very, very thoughtful, and it shows a unified front to our legislators, which is really very important. The governor's recommendation for 6% increase was not adopted in the House of Representatives. Alternatively, the House did pass a bill that passed out of committee, and it's out of the House, actually now it's over the Senate, that included a 2% increase for higher education. So the Senate's going to have to figure out exactly where we want to go with higher education next year. However, our new decision items are still alive and still in there, the ones that we asked for to support Reynolds Hall and the money that we asked for to support our move that would take all the domino effect moves that would take to have the dental school here in 2018. So those things are still going. There are several bills, though. I was glad to see the Faculty Senate take a position on the conceal and carry that is very consistent with what others are taking, that it should be a local decision. We're still trying to make that case. The two bills that were moving very quickly in that regard have really kind of slowed down. I think people are starting to realize it's a much more complicated issue than originally thought. But there are several other things too, like meal plans being separated from residence hall fees. There's a bill that, if passed, would require that. The complication there is that many institutions have bonded indebtedness based upon income from residence halls that includes those combination plans, room and board, and they're probably in the bond covenants. In fact, so the people who bought the bonds would have difficulties. There's a bill that's recently been introduced that all fees would sunset in 10 years, have to be revoted by students, so the student fees that were student approved for this building even would sunset in 10 years and would have to be revoted, and certainly that would present issues. So across the state, there are some these bills keep popping up that are maybe just a little overreach, and it could be difficult for many of us. So we'll keep an eye on those and try to keep them tamped down as best as possible. But we are still alive with the new decision items that we've asked for. The Great Game of Education is moving forward and really took a great step forward just this week, in fact, maybe yesterday, as we finalized the Culture Committee, which I think you remember is 15 individuals that will work really as an arm of the University Council, 5 faculty members, 5 staff members, and 5 from administration. That will have a variety of charges, but be advocates, but primarily going to focus on training really right off the bat. So we're to connect this whole idea of open book management and how we can implement our Great Game of Education across campus. And also we're working to now figure out how we connect all the dots for HLC. And I think it's going to be very handy for us to put those things together as we move forward. We were notified this week, I guess, that maybe last week, about the audit last week. Missouri Department of Higher Education is being audited by the state auditor's office, which really shouldn't be a big deal for us, except that it's going to take a lot of time for Linda and her crew to dig out answers to because they're trying to double check the state agency, they're gonna have information from us directly from all the universities to compare. And so we've already, you've been on a conference call, already done some things. Appreciate their interest in looking into the way that the Missouri Department of Higher Education is working, but it's an unfunded piece that we're gonna have to take care of. It's gonna take a lot of time and effort, so appreciate your work on that, Linda. We'll keep you updated on where that goes, because I'm not really sure what they're looking for, frankly, in this audit. It was hard to understand even the engagement letter. It's just confusing. So we'll kind of keep you posted as we move forward. The last item I really had noted here was the University Council. And at our last meeting, we did something a little different. It sounds probably pretty strange to you, but it did generate some good conversation. I think discussion was helpful. I just simply asked the question, what happens to Missouri Southern students and potential students? What do we do to them, and what do they have to do to be successful? And we kind of broke into groups to talk about it, but the really question was, what do we do from the time they're born until we get them here? So we're talking about marketing, advertising, all those things. And what do we do in that next segment, when they enroll until the time they graduate? And then what do we do after graduation through the rest of their life to try to create kind of a life cycle of what our students are experiencing and what we can do better to improve that experience. And it was really a robust discussion that came up with, maybe some things we can do better. Obviously, we're trying to assimilate all the documents. Everyone had a chart and was writing, oh my gosh, it's hard to put all that stuff together, but that will be our next item of business. Can we pick out 3 or 4 things, that we can really work on? Because you could see kind of, ebbs and flows. We worked really, really hard to get students through the door. Have advertising, marketing plans, all kinds of stuff to get them here. Then when they're here, what do we do for sophomores and juniors? So that we may need to start leveling out that whole playing field, and then how do we turn them into successful graduates and eventually donors and whole life cycle. So that's something that we're really going to focus on, I think, over the next few months. I've really wanted us to get into that conversation for several months, but we've been working on policy things, and we'll continue to keep you updated on where we are with this conversation about how we can serve our students better, become a more efficient institution for the betterment of our students. That's really all I have to say. Unless you have questions, that's conclusion of the report.
Any questions? If not, we thank you for your report, Dr. Marble. And at this time, is anybody aware of any old business that we need to take up? If not, we will proceed with new business, and I believe Dr. Carson has a number of things to present. So, call on Dr. Carson.
So we have, as David mentioned, very, very pleased, a very innovative model here for how faculty can deliberate not just regular catalog type curricular issues, but larger issues of broad academic interest. Been very, very helpful to our Office in Academic Affairs, the work that they have all done on this. This is a report from very, very early on. It's interesting by way of background. We have a rental textbook program here at Missouri Southern, very unusual across the nation, really, quite frankly, but it's very much intended to enhance affordability for the students, to make sure, as you all know, the cost of textbooks, printed materials has risen well beyond the normal rate of inflation. We've also seen the proliferation of electronic and digital media that obviously, because printing costs should be significantly cheaper, and is a little cheaper, but not that much cheaper. So we wanted to make sure we were in a good place with regard to student affordability, but also faculty needs to really make sure that their information, their textbook, their learning materials are current and most appropriate in the proper format. At the same time, we have a cohort of faculty member here who are very, very cognizant of student expenditure. It's very interesting to me and really, really much appreciated. When we talk about, or when we deliberate student fees of any sort, when we talk about the cost of learning materials, we have a group of faculty and professional staff who are always saying, is it appropriate, is it cost beneficial? So this issue was actually brought forth by faculty and staff members for us to deliberate. Should we do anything in the age of ensuring college student affordability? Should we do anything to somehow control, mitigate, cap, put a max on the amount of cost we should expect a student to spend for learning materials for a single class? So it was in essence a research question. We looked at what students are actually spending. We found that it was clearly, and I know Brad had testified to this earlier as well, in Jefferson City, our students are clearly paying less for their learning materials than those at comparable institutions. We found that there was no situation in which we felt like faculty were in any way being frivolous or inappropriate about their demands for learning materials. We thought that they were cognizant of being careful not to require duplicative material or anything of the like. So academic policies deliberated this, and as the process calls for, it went to the Faculty Senate, and they affirmed that. And so basically, we are through this basically asserting that we feel like our faculty are appropriate in terms of their material selection. We want to make sure faculty retain the autonomy that they need to ensure material selection is appropriate, and we commit that we will continue to monitor the costs on that front.
Okay, so we have a specific program policy here.
Just a report, so okay. I'm not sure. No motion to accept, just accept the report. Okay, wonderful. Thanks to everyone involved in looking at that very carefully. I appreciate it.
Okay. Then, as I understand it, we have a proposal for faculty promotions.
This is a great moment of joy to be able to bring this to you all for the first time here at Missouri Southern. From an academic perspective, tenure is really, I think, the greatest sign of respect and recognition that a faculty member can be afforded. And on top of that, to be able to earn post-tenure promotions is very, very much reflective of our community of true scholars. So it's a very significant moment for us to be able to advance these recommendations to you. With the passing of the handbook that's been in effect for less than a year now, there are increasingly structured and robust criteria for earning tenure and promotion at this institution, and that was something that the faculty collectively themselves wished in advance and with the sports engagement passed. And so we are still in many ways evolving to full quantification, operationalization of those standards. But all the units are working very, very hard on it. In the meantime, we had active tenure and promotion committees working this year. At Missouri Southern, there are two separate committees. Tenure committee is separate than promotion committee. It's something in terms of structure we may look at going forward. Because in essence, both of these rewards, recognitions, really obligate a faculty member to complete and be accomplished in 3 areas. That is teaching or instruction, scholarship, research, intellectual contributions, however you want to refer to it, and the third is service. And service from an academic perspective is to the institution, to the community, and to the profession. And so there is scrutiny of these candidates throughout the whole process. And so our evaluation starts with peer review. It has department head review, which considers many, many sources of information. And then dean's review, it progresses through to the provost's office, then to the president, and then to all of the final arbiters of passage of tenure and promotion. But we are very pleased to bring forward 2 recommendations for promotion. One of the candidates is Dr. Will Delahunty in political science discipline, which is in the social science department, and Dr. Devin Estes, who is graphic designer and art. Probably seen her work because she actually did the Spain poster, for the theme and the shirts as well.
Yeah. In our packets, I believe we have two separate proposals. The one you just referred to is on tenure recommendations, and then there's a separate proposal for promotion recommendations. I guess since you just mentioned the tenure one, that I would ask if there is a motion to approve the tenure recommendations as contained in the board packets.
So moved.
Mr. McCumber has moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mrs. Plotnick. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the tenure recommendations, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Okay, the motion is approved. Secondly, as I've indicated, we have a second proposal for promotion recommendations. The chair would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Franks. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Before you vote, Fleischaker, could I make a few comments about that?
Okay, well, I just, I didn't catch you. Was it Ms. Flanagan that made the second? Tracy? Okay, we have a motion second, and we can have discussion. Dr. Marble?
Yes, I would like, I think this is important enough to, we should read the names of the people. And certainly I supported the tenure recommendations, but in fact, the promotion committee should be recognized. And as we go, I know you've had this in your hands for a week to look at, and so you're familiar with it, but Paul Teverow chairs this committee and just does a great job. Terry Marion, Janine Cousins, Mary Beth Linder, James Capici, and Karen Plasinski, and they take their work very, very seriously. They look into the background and make sure that people have accomplished what they're supposed to accomplish. So these people are very, very deserving. I have full confidence in the committee and in the provost review. So I'm sure that these folks are very well qualified. So we are recommending that Mr. Matthew Cowden be moved from instructor to assistant professor of law enforcement. From assistant professor to associate professor, we would recommend Dr. Ala Berry in biology and environmental health, Dr. Brad Kramer in biology and environmental health, Dr. Jennifer Dennis in biology and environmental health. From associate professor to full, we recommend Dr. Jill Greer in social science and anthropology, Dr. Thomas Schmidt, I guess you'd say, business administration, Dr. Wendy McGrain in academic affairs. These people are fine people. They've earned everything that we recommended them for, so I hope that you would pass this with great pleasure and congratulations each.
Is there any further discussion or questions concerning this motion? If not, the chair would entertain a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome. I believe now, is that all you had, Dr. Carson?
Finally, yes.
I believe then we have a matter by Mr. Yost concerning the Jasper and Newton Bi-County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And I believe everybody received a copy of that proposal and has had a chance to review it. Yes, the chair would entertain a motion to approve that plan.
Here is the plan, if anybody would like to look at that. This is the old one. It expires in May of this year. So we are just asking you to adopt the updated version. I did not print that out. It's 400 pages long. It's online. I can send you the link. But that'll last us another 5 years. You're looking for an adoption letter.
I believe everybody received that and did receive the online references if anybody did want to look into the details on it. So it has been provided to all the board members. I guess, like I say, does anybody wish to make a motion to approve that? It's what it is. It's I guess continuing with updated version what we previously had.
Correct. The entity asks all of the organizations, and there's numerous schools, numerous cities, the counties, and a lot of entities to officially adopt that at their boards or their governing bodies, and then they have that on hand in case anybody asks. In fact, we used our adoption letter that this board signed back in 2011 when we applied for the FEMA grant for FEMA storm shelter. So it kind of greases the wheel when FEMA sees that you're part of this plan, it kind of helps the process.
This is through the Harry S. Truman Coordinating Council plays part in this too.
Yes.
Putting it together.
Yes.
So the chair would entertain a motion to approve that or adopt
I have a
that.
quick question. So do we have affirmative obligations under that plan? I mean, as it continues, is there any activity required by us? Because it does seem
No.
pretty onerous.
Nothing required by us, just as long as we are acknowledging that we are part of this group, it's more of an informative process for all the citizens that Missouri Southern is taking part in this, and they'll do everything they possibly can to mitigate hazard issues around the area, and along with all these other cities and counties and small entities as well. There's nothing required on our part.
I think you'll see a series, in fact, I know some cities have already, I've read about it, you know, read the paper where they're all updating and doing the same thing. So cooperating.
Pretty much required to have these plans to submit a lot of grant proposals that are out there. Actually, they are instructive, and sometimes they do guide local changes in infrastructure and policy.
As I understand it, the Southern's response following the Joplin tornado to open up the facilities and assist with that was the type of activities that you'd be looking at if something like that happened.
Jim, I'll move that we adopt this bi-county hazard mitigation plan.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Cumber. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion is approved. And, thank you very much. That's all that I have in front of me, except I believe Dr. Carson has a report or something concerning performing arts.
Thank you so much. We are very, very proud to demonstrate for you different aspects of our success and accomplishment in academic areas. Today, it was very much our desire to share with you the many talents and contributions of our performing arts area. And Dr. Charlotte's group singing earlier to make a little bit more comments about other areas of the music program. And then I'm delighted that you'll be able to meet Dr. Jim Love, who you may recognize as Santa Claus in the Star Wars Christmas commercial. But Jim is department head of theater, and he is an intellectual and I think a spiritual and a personal leader on this campus, and does a very, very interesting theater program. When I first came here, I was delighted that in performing arts, both theater and music, who work very closely together, really focus on breadth and depth of the students in these areas. Because again, it's not really just about entertainment. Often it's much, much more, and how we use performing arts. But what we're really doing, in the same way that we are training accountants and nurses, we are training these students to be able to professionally support themselves and enhance their community through their choice of major. And they work very, very well and very hard on that. And there is no student, I believe, that graduates with a singular talent. They are all very, very multi-talented. You saw a little bit about that earlier, but we want to show you the rigors of the program, and we'll also show you in our concluding presentation today some of the successes of our graduates. So I thank you both, and again invite Dr. Charlotte to come up and continue the presentation.
I don't need to die here. delight to talk to you about the performing arts because I feel like that this is one of our strong areas as far as being able to get out into the community and to reach the masses, so to speak, of people. I just want to highlight a few things, specifically in the music department, that we do to engage our community and to also bring more students that are not just music majors, as I said, but other majors to join us here at Missouri Southern. I kind of like to talk about the community involvement in terms of time, talent, and resources. And I say time in the sense that we have people that come to our concerts and spend time with us. And we reach literally thousands of people at our performances when you combine all of them together. If you consider just, for instance, the performance that we're about to do of the Chichester Psalms, which involves the orchestra and then what I call the Southern Symphonic Chorus, that in the past, last year when we did Brahms Requiem, there were literally 1,000 people at that performance down at the Central Christian Center. And so when you consider those performances combined with all of the other performances that we do, and like I just said, our touring 500 students that we saw, I mean, we really reached literally thousands of people. And I say talent, again, I'll mention the orchestra and the Southern Symphonic Chorus. The orchestra is combined, is made up of community members who play along with some of our own students. And the same thing with the chorus. We rehearse, for instance, right now, the students are rehearsing the Chichester Psalms during the day, Monday through Friday, and then on Thursday night, I meet with 40 other volunteer singers from the community, and we join together then the week before that performance. And that's been a great collaboration. I've done that now. This is our 5th year of doing that. And it's a wonderful time for the students and the community members to get to know one another. And in fact, you know, some of my sopranos are always asking, you know, is Dee Kassab going to sing with us again? We love Dee. And she loves the students, and I don't know, she's like 80-something, still loves to sing and still does a great job. And so that's that talent we combine with the community. And then I say resources because, again, a group like that and a group like Dr. McComber's orchestra, and then even, and you'll see in the video, bringing in Dante Winslow, we ask for donations and people donate. Sometimes people just automatically send in a check to help these things to offset the account. Sometimes, like last year's Brahms Requiem was completely underwritten by one individual. And we also ask for grants. The Helen S. Boylan Foundation just gave us another $3,000 grant to help perform these things. So we're reaching out to the community with what I call time, talent, and resources. I might also add to that, I say meeting on their turf. What I found was that, first of all, I thought that Taylor Auditorium for us in the choral program was a little bit, it was just uninviting and unpersonable, and it's not the best of acoustics as well. So I said, well, let's get out into the community. What we've done is to get out into the churches and perform our concerts in churches. Now, what the great thing about that is we have a ready-made audience because the people come and see us. But now we've also sort of garnered what I would call music groupies that sort of follow us around on Facebook and get to know us. I cite this last year when chamber singers went to Ireland. I just told Michael Gregory over at St. Peter's, I said, listen, can we just do sort of a rehearsal performance? And it was like on Friday for that Monday. I just did it spur of the moment. We almost filled the church within the span of a couple of days. The word got out, and all of a sudden we had this audience. I was like, whoa, we have this these groupies that follow us around. Then I would also like to highlight, because I think this is extremely important, we do recruitment for the university. And again, I want to emphasize not just music, but for all of the disciplines within our university. Our professors go out and clinic students. We do this on a weekly basis. Get out into the area high schools. We work with the teachers, we work with the students to help them build better programs, but we also are always listening and like, you need to come and sing and audition for us, or you need to play for us. That's one way that we get out and do recruitment. We also perform with these ensembles. We had at our jazz orchestra concert in the fall, I believe it was Neosho Jazz Band that came and played with us that time. The chamber singers, for instance, always open up the district honor choir performance. And again, that's 1,000+ people of parents and potential students from 9th grade on up. And many people have come to audition because they've seen our groups at that. That's a great recruitment tool. And then, as I said earlier, just about touring. It's important, chamber singers get out and tour. We've been to Wichita, we've been to Chicago because I have connections there, and to Kansas City. We've gone down into Rogers, Arkansas. Those are specific recruitment tours that we get into the high schools and we just sing for them. We talk to them. This last tour, they were working on a piece that we were singing. I said, come on up, let's sing it together. They sang for us, and then they had me work with them, and even some of the students were giving some comments. So that time is real important. They see us as real people. They don't see us as the ivory tower people who are unapproachable. So those are some things that we're doing specifically, as I said, in the music department to help get out and get into the community and to do the recruitment that brings more students into our program. So I will turn it over now to Dr. Lyle.
Ready, thank you.
All yours.
Good afternoon, all, and let me echo the thanks that you've already heard for the opportunity to come and share with you about the performing arts at Southern. It means a great deal to us, obviously. Before I give you some information specifically about theater, the wizards at University Relations and Marketing have produced a wonderful little presentation that sort of expresses some of the things that we find important.
We like to think of the arts as one of the university's crown jewels. We are very much a public face of the university. Folks come out to see Southern for art and music and theater.
The theater department is probably one of the busiest departments on the campus because we continually have shows going on. We just closed a show last Saturday night, and the children's show that we're coming up to do is already cast. And some of the same actors that were in that are going to be in that one.
Well, committing to making great music, 90% is not an A. If we took 90% of our music and played 10% of the wrong notes, we wouldn't have it. It takes a special type of student to want to study and perform music. Our students are the ones that are up at 2 a.m. Practicing. They're the ones that get the police called on them to the building because they don't realize somebody's not breaking in to steal anything. They're getting into the building to practice, to be dedicated.
The students are totally involved, and the opportunities they have to be involved are endless. We have stage management, in which there's a course in stage management, we teach stage management, then they get hands-on experience in stage management. Lighting design. We teach lighting design, the students are involved in lighting design, hanging lights, focusing lights, running the light board. And from there, they transition out into the world. We have no fewer than 25 students who are doing professional work in the theater out in the world today. Most notably, we have 3 students who were students of mine who they are currently the lighting director, the costume director, and properties manager for a show called Zarkana, which is done by Cirque du Soleil.
Our marching band also had a great recording project this past fall. We were a guest artist for Dante Winslow, a famous trumpet player who actually recorded a piece called 300 Trumpets Hit the Sky, and it was backed by our Lion Pride marching band. We took our members into the studio and we produced a song that was released on iTunes. We look forward to working with guest artists in the future. I have many names lined up of folks that would love to come out and work with our ensembles, and we look forward to future collaborations.
So in that are some things that we do consider very important. We take very seriously that we are public faces of the institution. Folks expect a university to have quality product, and we take that very seriously as well. We're not going to put something out that's accidental. We're not going to put something out that's not as good as we can make it be, because we know folks are watching. And so our integrity as artists meshes with our integrity as professors here at the institution. And we do good work around here, I think. But what I wanted to share with you was just a couple of things about the program. For those of you who may not be as familiar as others about how the theater works around here. First, I'm going to brag a little bit. As you saw, Mr. Clausen mentioned that. He's also, by the way, in addition to being adjunct faculty, he's a professor emeritus in our program, and did a lot to build what we have now and what we're doing now. This is our most recent production. We closed it a couple of weeks ago, and this is the Threepenny Opera by Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill. And I want to brag just a little bit because this really kind of epitomizes the way our students operate, because they're pretty fearless. And you can't surprise them. There's no telling what they may be called upon to do, and they willingly jump in and do it. It's difficult music in the first place. It's very unusual music in the second place. And this is the first time we've done a musical in the Bud Walton Theater, which is our smaller space. We typically do our musicals in Taylor Auditorium. This one would have been completely swallowed up in Taylor Auditorium. So what you don't see there is the orchestra, which is in the catwalk above the players and above the set. The kids were like, fine, okay, that'll work. Well, we've got balance issues with the orchestra. Well, fine, we'll do our best. And so it really was, they played up so well, and I was just so pleased and gratified by the whole production. It was a lot of fun. So that's our most recent thing, and as Mr. Clausen pointed out, we've already got the next one in rehearsal, the Commedia Princess and the Pea. We do a 6-show season, and our goal in the theater, as I tell students that come in to talk to me about it, is during the time that you're here, and I don't even talk about a 4-year degree anymore, during the time that you're here, 8 or 9 or 10 years, we want you to touch bases with as many different kinds of theatrical production as you can. We try to mix up the season. We try to have lots of experiences like the Threepenny Opera is done in a very particular kind of theatrical style. That's one of the reasons we picked it, because you don't get to visit that one very often. But we try to hit as many bases as we can in terms of style, in terms of repertoire, so that the gang gets stretched out. They're not playing the same kind of role all the time. They're not working on the same kind of scenery all the time. So we do try to mix it up as best we can and as much as we can. 1/3 of our output every year is children's theater. Winnie the Pooh at the top there, and a marvelous little play called Beanie and the Bamboozling Book Machine, which mixes all kinds of children's story characters together. We do one in the fall and one in the spring. And at one point I took a look and I went, okay, we've got a terrific commitment to children's theater and have for many years. But then I thought, that's 1/3 of what we do. And about the time I'm thinking that, somebody will come in as a freshman and go, the first play I ever saw was when my school brought me to your children's theater. We're committed to children's theater because a lot of folks will do this. This will be their first experience with live theater. And so we'll do 2 performances a day for 4 or 5 days a week, and then matinees on the weekend, and we'll be crawling with kids when the children's theater opens. It's wonderful. There's such a life and such an energy, and there are many schools that will call us even before we've announced our show to say, to make their reservations and come see us. And so we're really jazzed about that. And so yes, it will remain 1/3 of our output because we think it's very important. One of the other things we're kind of proud of in the theater is our ability to participate in the international semester. Since I've been here, the only one I missed was Turkey. Sorry, I was fresh out of Turkish playwrights. I couldn't come up with one for that one. So we did a Greek tragedy instead, which I enjoyed a lot. But you're seeing German Expressionism, upper left. That's a play called Gas. Next to that is a folk drama from the Brazil semester called The Rogue's Trial. Lower left, Antony and Cleopatra for the Egypt semester. We had the Egyptians in their classical attire, and all the Romans were dressed in contemporary military wear, which was just kind of a fun thing I enjoyed. And then for the Thailand semester, we took a Thai story, and the students and I adapted the story to our own play, and we did it in the style of Thai shadow puppets. So we built the puppets, we did the whole deal, and that's what you would have seen as an audience member looking from the front. So whenever possible, we like to work with Dr. Stebbins and be sure that the theater is involved somehow. We're already working on what we're going to offer for the Great Britain semester, so we're rocking and rolling. I want to talk to you about some of our alumni. We've been talking about success stories today, hot off the press success stories about people being accepted to residencies. We got a number of folks out there too. Mr. Clausen mentioned the Las Vegas Gang, which you'll be finding out more about when the Crossroads magazine comes out. Many of the public school teachers in this area are from our program. And so what's really kind of gratifying and nice is their students are showing up now, because they're out there going, you know, you ought to go to school where I went to school. And the students are like, good idea. And so they're coming in here. So it's really quite remarkable. Jimmy Noriega graduated a few years ago. He's had time to earn 2 more degrees since he was here. He is on the faculty at College of Worcester in Ohio, having taken his bachelor's. He got was in 3 majors when he was here. He was majoring in the catalog, and he just took everything. But he has his bachelor's degree from here, and then master's and PhD work at Cornell. And he's currently on the faculty at College of Worcester. I mention him to you specifically because of the work you see him doing on the other side of the slide. He is very involved in Latin American issues with respect to the theater. He is currently touring planet Earth with a play called The Women of Ciudad Juarez. Lots of murders, lots of disappearances, lots of issues. Jimmy has taken this information and worked in a collaborative way with a group of performers to bring this story in a theatrical way to audiences all over the place. He's touring the United States and has been, and this is the kind of work he's doing. I mean, it's pretty remarkable stuff. It's very cutting edge as far as the issues he's dealing with. It's also right up in front with the way theater's being done. Collaborative writing, collaborative performance, working together to make these things, and then being able to take it out where folks can have a look at it. So Jimmy's done some great stuff, and we're very proud that he's one of our alumni. Abby Railsback is currently at Regents University. She has 1 more year. Went there right straight from here to be an actor, and is currently preparing for a summer of touring with a children's theater company out of New Hampshire. She'll go up there to their farm where they'll rehearse for about 3 weeks, and then she and 6 other teams of 2 will go out across the United States doing 2-person productions of The Wizard of Oz. So I asked her who she was going to be. She has no idea yet, but it's only 2 people who go out and do these things, because the philosophy of this company is, let's stop just putting on costumes and talking down to children. Let's challenge them. Let's engage their imagination in different sorts of ways. And so that's what Abby's going to be doing, with an eye possibly even toward returning for even a full year after that. So she's doing well there at Regents, and we're awful proud of her. Debbie Chisholm is in Detroit at Wayne State University. Within their theater program is also the Hillberry Theater Company, which does repertory all through the year. And so that's a couple, that's Love's Labor's Lost at the top there, and One Man, Two Governors there at the bottom. I always brag on Debbie because she left here and walked into the role of Juliet there. The very first thing she did at Hillberry was to play Juliet for them, so not bad. So we keep in touch, and she's doing very well academically as well, so she's one of our success stories. And then from the technical side, Hunter Dowell is finishing this year at Southern Methodist University, and what you see on the other side are a couple of his recent costume designs for Mozart's The Magic Flute. That's Papageno and Papagena down at the bottom there, for those of you who know the show. He has a completely unique sort of vision, and to see his work being realized as beautifully as it is really quite remarkable. He's hoping this summer to be interning with William Ivey Long, who's a big deal Tony Award-winning costume designer. I have no doubt that he probably will. And then he's already got a gig lined up in New York City in the fall with a company that's going to put together a production of Your Good Man, Charlie Brown. Hunter will design the costumes, and then they're off to parks and schools. So it's that community engagement that theater, I think, is really, that's going to be a thing before we get too much further along. So with that, any questions that you might have about our program? There's one more thing that I need to mention. It's new, relatively new, and that's the Missouri Shakespeare Festival. It's another part of what we do as Southern Theater in the summertime, and its growth has been sort of this way. Upper left is Macbeth. That was our first summer, and it was a friendly donation that sort of got us started, completely on a shoestring. What do we got laying around we can do Shakespeare with? Because we just wanted to stop talking about doing summer Shakespeare and do summer Shakespeare. So there it is. Next to that is Twelfth Night. The receipts from Macbeth, kind of put those in the bank, and that kind of helped us do Twelfth Night the next year. And I think Twelfth Night sort of set the tone for kind of where we're headed as a festival. We set it in a seaside resort in the 20s, as opposed to where Shakespeare actually put it. But it was kind of neat with the modern dress kind of, or the 20s period style, really worked kind of well for this play. And so our idea is to try and be sort of interesting, unique, as well as terrifically entertaining. And I got to tell you, I'm gratified by all the people who come up to me and go, I understood that. Great, that was the point. I actually understood Shakespeare. Good for you, come back next year. But that is sort of our purpose. We reject the notion that Shakespeare is for an elite group and not intelligible. So we try to approach it in a way that we can. The bottom is last summer. There's a terrifically talented performer there standing next to an old man. But this was The Tempest, and last summer we had some help from the Missouri Arts Council. They gave us a matching grant to help go outside of our region and hire some folks to come in and do some performing with us. So we were able to pay 3 people last summer. We're hoping that at least 2 of them can come back, because Ariel there is on tour nationally with Beauty and the Beast right now, so I don't think she's going to be available. But it was a marvelous experience, and so this year we're taking a real step. We're going to be doing Romeo and Juliet. And our hope is to raise funds to have a completely stipendiary company. There's Lion Paw has a wonderful scale funding site, and we're on it, and we're actually starting to get some interest there, which is kind of nice. But our hope is to become a festival that some actors will plan to be with us every summer. It becomes an attraction for performers who want to come and do the work with us, because it's basically where we're asking for the month of June. And we've been working with, I've spoken to the food service and to the residents, life folks, because if folks need to be roomed and boarded, we want to be able to do that for them this summer as well. So that's really the goal of the fundraising, is to try and get not just the production costs covered, but also to be a really attractive spot for actors looking for work in the summertime. So Romeo and Juliet is on deck, and we're working on that, and we're working on some fundraising. And with that, there are my masks. That's my presentation. So any questions I can answer for you. And again, I thank you very much for your time this afternoon. All right. Many thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. We thank you for your presentations, and I believe the only other thing we have scheduled on our agenda is to mention that we of course have our board meeting scheduled at the regular time next month. We do have tentatively planned a meeting, I believe, on the 13th of April at 2 o'clock, finance budget to consider our health insurance plans and possibly other areas. We have tentatively scheduled a meeting on June the 9th, I believe, for our next board meeting after April, combining the May and June meetings on that day. So we'll ask Sharon, if you'll get out notices so that all the board members are aware, and hopefully the majority will be able to attend on those dates. Unless somebody has anything else, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Don't want to stay here.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Flanagan and a second by Mr. McCumber. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
All right.